What's going on? It's your boy Herb Dodd. Welcome back to the show, The Transition. Today I'm talking about guilty until proven innocent. My parents taught me young that I'm going to have to get up a little bit earlier. I'm going to have to go to bed a little bit later. I'm going to have to jump a little bit higher and run a little bit faster in order to just get in the same rooms with everybody else to get the opportunities that everybody else in America is getting. Now, unfortunately, racism, it isn't new. It's been around for a very long time, and the realities of everybody pretending like it hasn't is absurd. But here's the thing, as me being a black male, is that I don't dislike any other nationality no more than I love my own nationality. You know what I'm saying? But I was taught to be aware of everybody that wasn't family or friends. Go in and do your part, grind hard or stay at home. There is no something for nothing. But here's the thing, when you are a young black male on the southeast side of Chicago and you're going into the streets, the police are going to target you. Other black males are going to target you. Back then, if you were in the wrong area, racist whites were going to target you. Racist Mexicans were going to target you. Everybody was going to target you, so you got a big bullseye on your back, and you're guilty until you prove yourself innocent. It is exhausting, to go through life and have to prove yourself everywhere. Now, as men, and I'm gonna say black men because I'm not any other thing, but we were taught to be passive everywhere we go. We were taught to be doormats in the household. We were taught to be doormats in corporate world. We were taught to be doormats as we go out into the world, and we're supposed to forgive everybody, but be on high alert with each other. That means that everybody else feels like we're guilty when we come into the situation as well. So when people say that they don't understand why we were so excited about Barack, is that Barack was probably one of the best speaking presidents we've ever had in life. Now I don't know any of those other ones back in the day, George Washington, any of them, but neither do you. So understanding that when we talk about a well-rounded president, Barack was that. Now, was he perfect? No, because every president inherits what the other president left. So as you're coming in, you're guilty because whatever they left, you have to fix. Barack did what he could do, but I was listening to Michelle Obama's podcast, and the first one that she had Barack on it, and how much I miss listening to Barack speak and change, and what he talks about with change, and how he talks about all of us coming together as a unit in order for us to achieve the goal that we need to for Americans. Now, what he did in his term was great, where he made sure that the taxes that should be paid with people that were making over $100,000 got paid. Now, the difference between a rich person with money and a poor person with money is that a rich person is going to invest or push their money somewhere in a hole, and they're not going to put it back into society, whereas the poor person is going to put it right back into society because we have to pay bills. We got to do what we got to do. The funny thing about that is that we want to cut the middle ground. We want to cut the middle class person, because if we can keep the poor poor, then the rich will stay rich, and to me, that is not where we're supposed to be huge Americans. Like, how are we going to say that we're Americans, but we watch a lot of Americans sit homeless on the streets? And then when we see them, we feel like they're riffraff and they're guilty until they prove that they're innocent. For me, when a person asks me if I have some change, if I have it, I have it. If I don't, I don't. I can talk to a person that is a CEO of a company that is rich, and I can talk to a person that is homeless the exact same way. I don't have any biases. I speak to everybody how I want to be spoke to. If you are being ignorant towards me, as long as you don't put your hands on me now, I can move on. Because if I say something now, then I'm gonna be blamed for the altercation, you know. And I realize that as men lately, we are taught to be passive, especially black men. We're taught to be passive. We're supposed to lay down on the floor for our families and let them wipe their feet on us. Nobody needs to respect anybody. And in the corporate world, we're supposed to allow people to stab us in the back and do some of the things possible. I've had people that were friends in the companies that I applied for that I know I had more experience, I had more education than anybody else, but they still chose somebody else. And the funny thing about it is that we're going to try to pretend like it wasn't the color of my skin. So this is where my skin is my sin, and I'm guilty every time I walk in the door. So now I'm going to have to prove to everybody that I need to be here. Here's the problem with that is that now we're asking everybody for solidification. You know, here's a fight that I've been fighting much longer than most is the fairness of a father. You know, we celebrate when a relationship is toxic and a woman gets out of it. We celebrate how she was great of getting out of that situation, but if a man does it and there are children involved, how he left his family and how the situation was that way. Now, the funny thing about that is that the solidification in America is that, hey, if he leaves, then we're supposed to make sure he pays child support. Let's make sure he can set up everything, and let's take as much as we can take from him to make sure that you get this help for the child. Nobody really goes in and monitors if the money is actually going to the child, though. Now, don't get me wrong, this is not every case, but I've talked to a lot of fathers of different nationalities, and man, this is so unfair that we have a lot of young men out here without that understanding of how to be a man from a man. Is that a lot of the young males that are Z's and some millennials are struggling on how to be a man and how to understand that the sacrifice has to be you, and understanding that situation, you may not be seen, you may not be celebrated. Nobody in that generation now wants to have what we've been taking as fathers for the longest. You know, I've explained what took place to my oldest son, and that still didn't make me any better with him hearing the truth. He was just frustrated that I was telling the truth on his mom. So, in order for us to change how kids are going to be raised, we'd have to stop talking about finance in order for everybody to find out where they played a part in this situation and stop pointing a finger. Social media has us so keen on pointing a finger at everybody else's that it makes it so much easier to be who we are. When you talk about red and blue in the streets, be it Bloods and Crips, folks, Vice Lords, everybody can see how silly this is, that gangs are fighting over a different color and a 4-block radius. But let's talk about how frustrating it is to see it on a higher level of Republicans and Democrats, blue and red, fighting over stuff that almost wipes out the poor. You got other people coming from other countries that want to be in America because, especially for women today, because of it being fair enough for them to actually do something and not be dictated towards. But when they get here, you realize how it is hidden that this is really for the rich. You know, it's almost like going into a zombie apocalypse. You have people going up to a floor that the zombies can't get to, plenty enough time to get all of us up there, and everybody up there decides to pull the ladder. Well, now you leave all of us down here to either die or figure out how to survive down here. But it's hilarious because poetic justice has the floor that you're on cave in, and now most of you fall back down here. The way we're taught is that we're supposed to forgive you where you just left me to die, but I'm supposed to forgive you and help you find a way to get back up there where you feel like you're supposed to be. And that's what's frustrating to me, is that you feel like you're supposed to be there, but nobody else is supposed to feel like that at all. We're all supposed to celebrate just you and not anybody else. Which is why I said, what I do like about the millennials and the Z's is that you're not gonna tell them who they're gonna be friends with, who they're going to have a relationship with. People are stepping up, doing the things that they're supposed to be doing. Miss what I said before. I miss Barack's voice because he really does believe in change. But the only way you're gonna get change is that you don't have somebody to blame, and that's what America has done for everybody. For the poor whites in America, is that the person that you can blame is every other nationality because they're taken from you. For blacks, it's the rich white male that's taken from you, and the police, the brutality. For the Mexicans, it's everybody that hates you guys. So now what rich white America has made is that I've gave you a person to be pissed at and blame. Now, what we do know is that once you have a person to blame, do you fight as much anymore, or do you just continue to bitch, moan, and complain and blame that person for the position you're in and just go grab a beer after that? You know, you don't put any more work in, you have a person to blame. You know, for me, I was taught early on respect. You know, when you look at what's going on social media, you have a lot of people talking out of turn, saying whatever they feel about people, and then you got people rolling up on them and taking care of their business. The problem is with that is that everybody feels like they should have the ability to say whatever they want to say, but there is consequences for everything that you say. So you have to be ready for the consequence, and that's what's not being taught. That's what I feel like as men being in younger males' lives, is that I can tell you that, yeah, you can say that, and maybe you are following in your mother's footsteps on a lot of stuff, but your mother is going to be able to get away with a lot more than you're going to be able to get away with. You know, it's just truth. You have to figure out what's going on. For me, I understand in America, I'm guilty until proven innocent. But what I'm going to say to every male is you don't need everybody's solidification. From the corporate world all the way back home, nobody needs to solidify you. You don't need everybody to tell you you're a good father, you're a good employee, you're a good husband, you're a good, you know what you're doing, you know how it's supposed to go. But do understand, when you start asking everybody for their judgment, pretty soon that's what people are going to give you, their judgment about you. So you can't be frustrated when you're sitting and you're waiting for it. You know, change is going to come, but the reality is, like Barack said on and I suggest you go over there and listen to that first podcast of Michelle Obama. Change is going to come with the work that we put in. Change isn't just going to show up. You got to put some work in, and if you want to change that guilty to innocent, you got to put the work in, but not look for people's solidification. Just change the way you approach it. One of the reasons why I made something that's called the Sacred Circle. All of the groups that we were performing with, hip-hop in Chicago, I came up with the Sacred Circle because I wanted just our little pod to where whoever is doing something, we all support. Now, if we're all doing that in our pods and in our circles, do you know just with that power of what we're showing in unity, it'll spark and it'll start going everywhere. Right now, it just seems like we're taught to only think about self. And who cares about anybody else? But, for me, I've seen so much death in my life is that once a person's gone, you can't change that. So I'm 100% happy that I appreciate my parents, my in-laws, my Harv's parents, because they're like parents to me, my family, my team. You know what I'm saying? I mean, people that no matter what I've done, we talk about it, but we move on because I'm just as human as everybody else, and I have that room to make that mistake. We're all supposed to have that room to make that mistake and move on. It's unfortunate and sad how fathers have to spend thousands of dollars to prove that they love their children, whereas a woman doesn't really have to spend that much, and she may not be that great of a mother. But America is all about mothers, and here's the reason why: because the government can continue to put their hands in a father's check, where they will not do that with a mother, because the father, if he finally got away from toxic, he doesn't even want child support. He just wants to be done with that situation with her, loves the child, but doesn't have to, shuck and jive with her to do that. And that's kind of what America is saying, is that as a father, you're supposed to shuck and jive, and if she tells you to go up to the mountain and go grab a goat, you're supposed to do that. And if you don't do that, then you don't love your children. What does a goat have to do with my child? And that's the thing, is that we celebrate a woman getting out of toxic, and we ridicule a father that's getting out of toxic. There's a lot of fathers that would love to take their children and get that help financially and everything else, but America is not pushing that, because America knows that they will not be able to put their hands in a woman's check like they're putting it in a man's check for child support. That's why they push all of that. That's why it was pushed that the man has to be out of the household in order for any of this other stuff to be for the mother and the child. Guilty until proven innocent. Here's the thing: don't look for solidification. Do it right the way you can. Let's all change it together, but let's all understand that if you don't want to be a doormat, I'm not going to be one either. If you want fairness, then you have to be giving fairness. That's how this works. Look at hip hop. Hip hop hasn't been talking about much for a while on the top side. But all of us that are underground, we've been talking about these same fights for I don't know how long. That means that the powers that be don't want to have hip hop speaking about anything. In the last couple of years, what has really been memorable? Somebody shaking their butt, Percocets, man, I'm gonna take these choppers and shoot up the block so people understand that I'm hot, and all of this other stuff. And when you get out of that booth, you're still going through the same thing, and you're guilty until proven innocent, just like anybody else. So for me, I enjoy doing music now because there's still a number of people that are behind me being a big homie now, that want to hear, that need to hear this. That's why I have these going on right now. That's why I have this show, to transition, so people can hear where you have to make a change yourself. You can't ask people to change and you don't change yourself, and then you have to be given a room to change. I'm definitely a totally different person than I was when I was a teenager, than I was when I was in my early 20s. You learn, you evolve, and you move forward. But no one wants to be guilty and have to prove that they're innocent all the time. It's exhausting. Trust me. It's your boy Herb. Listen, do something for somebody else. Trust me, to give you a chance to figure out where you're supposed to be. Don't look for solidification. Do it the right way. If you do it right the first time, you never have to go back. That's what my dad taught me. Come on back. I got some more. Holla at your boy.